It's now looking at practices, right? What are the practices and how do you implement these health factors into the building and into the facility of your customer? Now, these are things that you can do to create that change, but there's basically 6 components, my apologies, on creating this change. So then the first thing that you want to do is have a commitment to making that change. That means it's part of your company culture. It's part of your sales process. This is who you're going to be. This is your identity, that you're selling health and safety. You're not selling cleaning supplies or cleaning services. You're selling health and safety to your end user, to your customers. So that takes a commitment and an identity shift. Now, the next step is evaluating the situation, evaluating the facility with your customer or not. So if you're doing a survey, if you're doing an analysis, you're going to do a proposal, you're going to do an evaluation. So you want to evaluate the facility as to where things are at now. Where's your organization at right now? The second thing is looking at training. Doing training such as like this program and others on making sure that you have the proper training in place to create that change. Then we talk about procedures. We go right into depth in procedures in the playbook on what procedures deliver the results, because your procedures are much more important than the products that you use. We want to be able to combine the products that you use and the practices that you use to deliver the outcomes that create change, that create the improvement in cognitive function, that create the better math scores, that create the reduced sick days. So the procedures you use are important. And finally, is once you're doing this, and once you have this in place and are able to do this for your customer or for your organization, how are you marketing it? So as an example, what marketing materials do you have that you can promote this or help your customer promote this? So if you come in, you say, hey, we have this program that we clean and here's the outcomes that we get. You can market this. So imagine for a moment that you're cleaning a private school and you are showing them all these things, these practices that you can deliver. And you can start marketing out to the parents and the neighborhood and the community that you are delivering 61% improvement in cognitive function, that you're delivering improvement in math scores and reading scores, reduced sick days. These all have financial benefits, both to parents and both to obviously the school. Less sick days, things like this, less substitute teachers, all these things. So you can market this to your customer, and it puts you and positions you better in the marketplace to deliver that. And finally, monitor it. Right? This is all part of the process. So how are you monitoring? So you're doing it. You're facilitating this change, executing in your procedures, but how are you monitoring it? And this kind of piggybacks on the fourth step, which is policies. So what policies do you have in place? So we know you have the practices, but what about the policies as well? So as an example, let's take a look at what would your policies maybe be for cleaning a bathroom. Well, you're going to want to have a list of policies, which is in the playbook, so that you can teach your staff, show your customers that you have standard operating procedures and practices for doing things. So we got to remember that, like as an example, if you're cleaning a restroom, sustainable cleaning objectives, that you want to minimize the potential of spread of disease and illness to provide the user with a clean, hygienic environment. Now, if the age of COVID has taught us anything, that we need to be doing this all the time, with or without COVID, we need to be making sure that we are cleaning and getting rid of disease, not cleaning for appearance. And you can only get that through the proper training and processes that you have of your employees. If your employees are not trained, if you do not have practices in place, they will not just automatically know what to do. I will never forget a time when I went to a washroom and I was washing my hands, and the cleaner came in. He was a paid cleaner, and he had a bunch of garbage bags in his back pocket. He had a roll of paper towel, and he had a spray bottle. And he came in and wrapped the paper towel around his hand, a couple layers. He sprayed the surfaces, the urinals. He wiped down the urinals and then went to the toilet, wiped down the toilet, then went over to where I had just washed my hands using the same paper towel and cleaned the sinks. Now, you need to make sure you have practices in place and policies in place to assure that you're delivering these outcomes. And so it takes a commitment on your end of helping your customer or you putting these policies in place. So you want to make sure that you have the best practices, right? So if we're talking about restrooms here, you're properly mixing cleaning and disinfecting solutions, right? You're applying the disinfectant directly to the surface and allowing the proper dwell time. You know, how long are you telling your employees to let the disinfectant sit on the surface? Right? These are all things that are required to deliver the outcomes that you're going to promise to your customer so that you can add value and demand a higher price. Right? Applying additional cleaners to microfiber cloths to minimize the VOCs instead of atomizing in the air, as an example. Right? So these are all the different things that you want to do and examples of policies which we have in the playbook. So best practice: remove moisture on the floors, the vanities, right? Remove regularly disinfect all handles, faucets, dispensers, light switches. Okay, paper towel dispenser should be touchless systems and disinfect them daily, right? Now, it might sound logical to you, but it's, common sense is not necessarily common practice, to quote Brendon Bouchard, right? So this is important to recognize, right? And things to watch out for. What should you and your company and your employees be watching out for? Right? In the case of a washroom, well, odors due to inadequate floor drain maintenance, ventilation, insufficient service levels. So do you have policies in place to clean the drains, to get rid of the drains, the odors in the drains? These are all things that you want to take a look at. And these are the 4 levels of change that are required. So you want to look at where you're at. If you're in the traditional sense, the first step is just embracing and looking at moving to green chemistry. Eco Logo, Green Seal, Green Guard certified products. Bio-based if possible, meaning plant-based derivatives, because it's a renewable resource, and most distributors will sell bio-based cleaning products. But if they're not bio-based, make sure that they're Eco Logo, Green Seal certified. Okay? Green Guard if possible. Now, then we talk about your products. What products do you use? What products do you promote, and why? And are you helping your customer make this switch? So looking at products and the products you sell or use as a whole, the 4 categories: paper, sanitation, paper, equipment, and chemical. Right? We were looking at the practices, level 3. What practices, standing operating procedures do you have in place? Right? We talked about that. We have that in the manual. And finally, the policies. So you have the practices. How are you documenting it?